Hi. Did everyone have a nice lunch? And I was very pleased to see a lot of tables with people meeting up and exchanging after the talks of this morning. So that's quite good for our first event. So we're starting again. Some people will join us a bit later, but we're starting again with our new speakers of the afternoon. And let's meet Charlotte Masquelier-Page and Harry Denis, Community Advisor at SwissBorg. Harry. Hello. Harry is cryptocurrency and blockchain early investor in Metaverse, DeFi, P2 e-gaming, Web 3.0, NFTs, and yield farming. SwissBorg is an investment company that allows to buy, sell, or exchange cryptocurrencies with 16 fiats. Nowadays, fintech companies are democratizing wealth management, making it easier for retail investors to get involved. Charlotte and Harry are going to discuss how to democratize wealth management. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Harry. I recently joined SwissBorg as a community advisor. Most of my past experiences are focused into sales and marketing. And to talk about crypto, my relationship with crypto started back in 2016. Since then, we never stopped dating each other. Like any couple, there is ups and downs. At the moment, we are going through a little crisis.
Harry, I really hope you figure that one out. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Charlotte. I started my professional journey at SwissBorg just over 4 months ago. Prior to that, I undertook a master's in innovation and entrepreneurship here at a business school in Barcelona. I joined SwissBorg as a community advisor, and I was actually the first hire of the community advisor team. Our goal with this was to create a real direct point of contact between us and our users and start this open conversation. And my role has been to understand the wants and the needs of these users so that we can continue to evolve and create a fun, fair, and community-centric approach to democratizing wealth management. So SwissBorg was founded back in 2017 and ICO'd also in 2017. But even back then, there were already many, many players in the CeFi and DeFi space. I want you to think back to the first time you had to connect your MetaMask to a DeFi platform, or you first had to navigate a trading platform, making your first deposit or executing your first trade. How did that feel?
Well, I remember it was a nightmare for me.
Yeah, so for me as well. And please can everyone raise their hands if they also felt this way? Maybe it was a little bit daunting, difficult to navigate, complex. Did anyone feel like that the first time? Even if you didn't raise your hand, so I'm not alone in this. Great. Yeah, so when I first started from my own experience, I didn't really know the risks that were associated with DeFi. I didn't think that the information was that accessible or the education material that accessible. And all of these fluctuating trading charts I felt could only be decrypted by experts. So, Harry, can you tell us a little bit about why and how SwissBorg decided to combat the issues that users like myself face in the crypto space?
Okay, so at SwissBorg, we truly believe that blockchain technology can empower anybody to control their wealth, and that decentralized wealth management is the next step towards a world of decentralized nations where every individual is welcome and fairly rewarded for their contributions. And that is why we decided to create SwissBorg, a wealth management platform based on meritocratic system, focused into designing tailor-made investment strategies based on investors' choices, combined with self-learning algorithm. Our vision is to make it fun, fair, and community-centric, and accessible to all.
So then, the mission was to take this vision and transform it into a tangible product. Today we have the SwissBorg Wealth app, which is a meta exchange and a digital wallet, and we also have our own token listed on the platform. It has a quick and seamless onboarding process, which you can do in less than 10 minutes. It has a security system which users have confidence in and are reassured by. We have indicators about every token on our platform combined with some analytics. And you can yield in DeFi in 22 different tokens. And we do this with our Smart Yield program, partnering with different protocols, and we minimize risk to maximize return.
So here it was a quick demo showing how a user would convert USDC to BNB in order to activate the compound yield. For technical reason, the video is not available, but basically it was showing how easy it is to navigate through the app to convert stablecoin to any token, in this case BNB, and usually to activate and generate passive income through the yield. Also, our integrated smart engine take the user out of investing by connecting to 5 different exchanges to find the best rates and liquidity in a matter of seconds in order to find the best price execution.
So a little bit of an overview of where we are today. In just 1 year, SwissBorg became Europe's top crypto wealth management platform. We have over 620,000 verified users, over 1.5 billion Swiss francs of asset under management, and last year generated revenue of over 77 million Swiss francs. We continue to be very pertinent in markets such as France, the UK, and Switzerland. We're growing in areas like Benelux and Germany, especially with our new implementation of the German language into the app. We're also growing in markets such as Italy, Spain, Portugal, and even further afield into places like Canada and Singapore. And what this shows is that SwissBorg is giving the opportunity to users globally to participate in a fun, fair, and community-centric wealth management platform. So without going into too much details about the key figures and milestones, 2 things that I would really like to touch on, though, is that this year SwissBorg obtained the PSAN license in France, so on the 12th of April, meaning that we operate in a more legal way in this country. We were actually the first crypto platform to do this. At the start of the year, we were around 200 employees, just over, and by the end of the year, we're projected to be at 400. And this just proves how fast SwissBorg is growing and changing.
So we make this one especially for you today, creators. It details the extent of what we offer here at SwissBorg through 7 different pillars. We have the smart engine. You can get the best price and liquidity from multiple exchanges. We get instant fiat getaway. You can control at any moment your cash. You can invest crypto through many dApp in multiple chains. You can also use the smart send, sending over 40 crypto assets to any SwissBorg user instantly with 0 fee and with 1 click. There is also, soon there will be the thematics. You will be able to invest in crypto bundles depending on your values. Eco project, Metaverse project, security project, community project. There is also portfolio analytics. You can, at any moment, get an overview of all your deposit, withdrawal, fees, profit and losses. Also, visualize how your portfolio has grown over time. Also, no, sorry, I didn't finish. Also, the smart yield. You can add crypto asset to your account to get daily yield and generate passive income.
So we already touched on a few of these, but this just shows how SwissBorg is diversifying and evolving. We already spoke about the best execution through the smart engine and the passive income through the smart yield. A little bit more on thematics, which is essentially a basket of coins grouped by topic. And the first ones we're going to be, which obviously users can invest in. And the first one we're going to be focusing on is the topic of sustainability. We also have our SwissBorg Ventures project, which allows eligible users to invest in early stage projects, and a number of NFT projects on the go. We've already partnered with tennis star Stan Wawrinka on his Bullman project, and also had a recent partnership with Bottle Wine Club. We also have our Suniverse project, which is essentially a digital comic book. And furthermore, our SwissBorg project, which is a utility NFT, which has multiple utilities, which Harry is going to expand on now.
Yeah. So SwissBorg is really excited to invite you to join our first wide-scale NFT project, the SwissBorgs, a utility and purpose-driven NFT project featuring 10,000 unique SwissBorgs heroes. Key utilities include investing in DAO funds and governance rights. The best part is that all the revenues generated by the initial mint and also by the royalties will be reinvested in Web 3.0 projects that will help to protect the Earth and that will be sustainable. At the moment, we can't say more about it, but we are also building partnership with real-life heroes in order to add values to these NFTs. Stay tuned for more updates soon. And here, it's a competitive positioning of SwissBorg. You can see that there is many actors, and you will ask me, but why SwissBorg is different? Well, SwissBorg is a hybrid app. It's a mixing CeFi and DeFi, allowing anybody to invest in crypto in a fun, fair, and community-centric way. We focus into the community, and we regulatory compliant. We also think that investing through an app shouldn't be complicated. That's why the app is really friendly user and fun. And to finish, I would say that you can do anything in the app through one touch with your finger.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today. We hope you've gained a good understanding of how SwissBorg is democratizing wealth management by making it fun, fair, and community-centric. If you don't already have the app, please scan the QR and you'll be able to onboard in less than 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte and Harry. Thank you very much. Well, our next guest now.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll see you in after the presentation, the three following presentation for the Q&A. So now, Robert. Hello, Robert. Robert is director at M-Wek Recruiting Company, an ex-rugby player, as you could say, and history graduate of the University of Manchester. Robert has 20 years experience in financial services recruitment, mostly within technology and as a director of M-Wek Company. Robert specifically enjoys working with cryptos, blockchain and fintech firms, and enjoys connecting the right individuals with the right roles. Robert and his team have more recently been focused on the NFT space, speaking with clients in the gaming, art, and music sectors. Robert is going to share the way they acquire the best talents in the tech and blockchain space. Welcome.
Okay. Hi, guys. Very nice to be here to speak to you today. And I am going to tell you how to acquire the best talents in the blockchain space. First, I'm going to tell you a true story of someone that I know. I used to work with his dad. He's 24 years old, and he graduated in 2019 from the University of Brighton. Now, the University of Brighton is a 117th best university out of 132. So this is not a great university by any means. He did a degree in computer science, but he's really passionate about what he does. He loves it. He's a dedicated coder. Whilst he was at university, he did hackathons. He worked as a technology director for a TV channel. He wrote and worked on a gaming website. And over the time, he's worked on 10 different contracts. So he's contracted at fintech organizations. He's contracted at big companies such as Refinitiv and Lloyds, and he's worked for smaller startups as well. He never wanted to do a permanent job, but about 3 months ago, he got a call, and Google called him up and said, "Look, we've seen what you've done on LinkedIn. We like the sound of you. We like, we like the look of your profile. Why don't you apply for a job with us?" He does 6 physical interviews, and 2 actual coding sessions. And he got a call 2 months ago. They called him up and said, "Sam, great news. We want you to join Google as a software engineer." He said, "That's fantastic news. What am I getting paid?" £140,000 UK sterling. That's 25 grand less than the current Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson. And to put that in context, the average UK salary is £32,000. This is a starting salary of a 24-year-old graduate. The only job that will pay you more right out of the gate is working for Magic Circle law firm. And that gives you some sort of indication as to where the tech market is at the moment. You've got a 24-year-old from a poor university earning 140 grand plus 40k stock options in his first year, 80k in his second year. State of play in technology recruitment in 2022. Tech investment globally. Well, despite the recent slowdown caused by revenues dropping, cost rising, and various issues such as the Ukraine war, the past 18 months have seen a huge growth in the tech sector, as we all know. It's reached 10 times the level of 2015 and 3 times the level of 2020. And we crossed a milestone recently of $100 billion in 2021. And despite the slowdown, the labour market remains very strong. Average postings in Europe still 40% higher than before the pandemic. And one thing we have to realise is now tech, totally global. A lot of the roles that I'm working on as a headhunter, fully remote working. So I've got people who are working in Dubai, people who are working in Japan, people who are working in America, and it's not a problem at all. They're working in different areas than the companies they're contracted with, and this never used to be the case. So in the UK, where I'm from, where I work, there's currently around 1,000 crypto jobs. This is a very buoyant sector. And in the US, 4,000 crypto jobs. It's mainly around New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. So just giving you an idea of how busy things are at the moment. And for all you techies out there, what are the top 10 languages used for blockchain technology? I was discussing this at lunch. Things like Solidity, Java, Python, JavaScript, PHP, C++, C#, etc., etc. We've discussed smart contracts. We've got Ethereum smart contracts. They power the DeFi world. More and more projects enter that space. The demand for these people is going up, up, and up. Solidity developers are earning permanent-wise up to 200,000 sterling, contracting 1,000 a day. This is these very, very, very high rates of pay. And using Solidity, the developers can deploy these smart contracts to generate tokens, making it ideal for projects. At the moment, there's very, very few people out there with this experience, and a lot of people asking for it, and those with it, they can pretty much name their price. So how do we go about, as recruiters, acquiring the best talents in tech and blockchain? Traditionally, using things like LinkedIn Recruiter, eFinancial Careers, job adverts, that's how we used to do it before. I'm sure we all know about LinkedIn. Now has 810 million members with over 57 million registered companies. Surprisingly, and I was surprised at this, millennials make up to over 60% of LinkedIn's user base, with 11 million of the 87 million millennials in decision-making positions. Just goes to show what a useful tool this is. And the more experienced candidates, they still upload their CVs onto job boards and apply to roles in the traditional fashion. And I'm very doubtful that this method of searching for candidates is ever going to change. So the more recent methods, I'm 41 years old now, so things like Discord, Slack, it's all kind of new to me. Social media, instant messaging, that's a very, very good way of recruiting. As I just mentioned, Discord, Slack, Asana, Monday.com, Twitter, TikTok's popular these days. Apparently people are using that to recruit, and obviously Meta and Instagram. And when I first started recruitment in 2002, back in the dim and distant past, we never had any of these things. So going on to that, really these things are an invaluable tool in the recruitment process. And as recruiters, we can use our own personal social media platforms or that of our companies to search for talent. Direct messaging, important. Group messaging, really useful for quick-fire conversations between 2 or more team members. And the good thing about this is the channels support open conversations. These community members, they can freely join in any channel they want. For those people that use it, you'll probably know this. There's an option to create private channels. which can be used for sensitive topics. And a colleague of mine actually placed a game economist and a marketing specialist she found on Twitter this year with 2 of our clients in the NFT and gaming space. We're just going to show things are changing and will continue to do so in terms of recruitment. And networking, obviously a very good way of speaking to people, meeting people. Token, crypto meets, conferences, the Night of Creators today, the Global NFT Summit that I've been to, Blockchain Expo. Recruitment is contact. We have to be proactive. We have to be dynamic. We have to be enthusiastic. We have to go and meet people. What's happening? Who are the major players? Who are the movers and shakers? Speaking to individuals who know about the marketplace will tell you all about roles, tell you all about what's happening. And look how fantastic it is to be here post-pandemic, something we couldn't do 2 years ago, making connections, speaking to people and engaging individuals face-to-face. This is how business should really be done. And the one good thing about being in this space, which I used to recruit in the financial services, it was quite dry, done elements of other work as well, done elements of legal. But if there's one thing about crypto and NFT space, everyone's so enthusiastic about it. People love talking about it. It's a hobby of theirs. They live and breathe it. And as recruiters, it's really important that we can take advantage of this and engage with as many people as possible. Now, coming back to that, obviously young talent is absolutely key. There's 7 times more technology development jobs than there are developers. There's people who 2 years, as you probably know, this is anecdotal, but when the pandemic hit, we know of people who were working in Pret, obviously couldn't work in Pret, who were working in the hospitality industry in London. They decided to become coders. They thought, you know what? Maybe the hospitality thing's not the way to go. We don't know when the pandemic's going to end. They learned how to code, and you've got people who were working in Pret in 2020 now earning £500, £600 a day as a developer, because there's such a lack of these skills. I'm telling my 4-year-old son, 7-year-old daughter, look, this is the way to go, right? If you want to do well, it's skills that everybody should learn because of the massive chronic shortage. And now the best tech graduates, they've got a choice of the more traditional sectors like banks, consultancies and investment managers, but they've also got fintech startups, crypto and blockchain companies as well. So instead of these people going to Barcap like they did years ago, or going to work for Fidelity, they're now working for sexier firms, these startup firms, these crypto organizations who can offer them good money, and they can offer them things like tokens, et cetera, Bitcoin. It's all a way of getting these people engaged, giving them a slice of the pie, basically. So you've got companies like, these are all our clients, companies like Wintermute, GSR, B2C2, Coinbase and Amber Group, all looking at grads and paying very good salaries as well. And for us, holding seminars and events, hackathons, and also networking, that's going to help us massively to increase our pool of graduates, which is what we need. And so in terms of partnership and understanding of our clients' needs, what we can do as organizations and you hiring managers, this is what you should look for every recruiter that you take on. Someone who can advise on recruitment processes, testing, salary benchmarking, competitive analysis and insight. That's all very, very important. You need to know exactly what your competitors are paying developers, economists, paying program managers, salespeople, which is very important. And we have to be a trusted partner to blockchain and crypto companies. I've actually placed a couple of people with Starname, fantastic organizations to work for, but it just goes to show, how much you really have to get engaged and really, really be involved with the story. So we become part of the client's journey and story. We really get underneath the bonnet to find out what our clients are actually looking to do and the sorts of people they're looking to take on. And obviously what we want to do is make relationships with as many people in the company as we can, top right down to middle levels, because these people are going to be the hiring managers of the future. There's always threats. There's threats everywhere. There's threats to us as a business. It's an extremely competitive marketplace. Every developer that I put over has probably got 6 or 7 options. You've got people going from 70k who are getting offered 150k, this, that, and the other. As I've just said, you've got kids barely out of university getting offered well north of 100K. It's the most competitive marketplace I've seen in 21 years. Extraordinary length of time that I've been in the game. But in 21 years of recruitment, this is the tightest market for talent. Everybody wants a slice of the pie. Contracting is always an option. There's extremely high rates on offer. Like I said, you have got developers earning great rates, but IR35, which I won't bore you with, which is a tax law that's come in, the Tories have included, it's made it harder for contractors to earn that much money. So, you know, perm is a way to go. And there's also an element of a lack of self-awareness, and some candidates really are pricing themselves too high because they know that they can do that, but some clients are going over and above to pay because there's seemingly never-ending pots of money in the crypto space. But obviously, given the events of 3 weeks ago where I came back from the gym and everybody was in tears at the desk, and then I checked my SwissBorg account and I saw what happened to my crypto investments. It's a very, very volatile sector, as we all know. And will this volatility send candidates scuttling back to the more traditional sectors like the investment banks, which we know they've been there forever, and the Metas and the Googles? Let's just see. It'll be interesting to find out what happens. So to conclude, despite a recent dip in the general technology market, the war on talent is as keenly fought as ever. And as recruiters, we must keep sharp, flexible, aggressive and proactive in order to get the best candidates for our clients. But the good news is that the vast majority of candidates in the tech space are very keen to work in the crypto and blockchain sectors, and long may it continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. Now we are Samuel. Yes. Samuel Villegas. Samuel is a blockchain builder, business strategist, and software engineer at 251 EU that is helping businesses craft strategic roadmaps to solve the challenges blocking growth and find focus towards success. Samuel is also a host of Startup Fucks Up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say it, even if it's not.
Yeah. Well, it's, beep.
Yeah, beep of Startup Beep Ups. Passionate about entrepreneurship and sharing about the founder at Beep Ups, such as losing investments, hurricanes, closing businesses, and debt. He's going to discuss the use of a blockchain and DeFi for funding startups. Welcome, Samuel.
Thank you.
So you have plenty of time.
I have plenty of time.
Yes.
Oh, great. Awesome. I wasn't planning on that, but good to know. So as you heard, my name is Samuel, and I'm a software engineer, business strategist, founder, and and I'm here to talk about blockchain and DeFi for funding startups. So when I was analyzing blockchain and the internet capabilities, communities, and also funding for different companies, it was natural to me to think that all the benefits that blockchain have that solve some of the problems for traditional finance and for fiat currencies, combined with a community in the internet and many people together, it was ideal for doing some type of funding towards startups, toward companies. Or we have seen some other examples about this with Constitution DAO. They wanted to buy the Constitution, or they want to do some stuff. So before I get into the details of this, I want to tell you a bit about myself. And in 2011, while I was still in the university working, I started working in my software development company, and we developed mobile applications, websites, API integrations, internet, whatever they asked us, we were going to do it. And we did that for companies in the events industry, the sports betting industry, also healthcare industries, wellness industries, and many other things. So it was very good, and I was able to build a team, and this was part of the team. I was already going mad, you can tell me on the right. And the reason that I was going mad about it is that after 5 years of doing that, I realized that building software for other people was not what I wanted to do, and I wanted to build something for myself. So I stopped doing software and brought most of the team from the software company to found Innovation Hacking Lab. And our goal in Innovation Hacking Lab, I partnered with my father, who was an ex-consultant from McKinsey in the telecommunications area with a lot of knowledge in business. And our goal was to build a software as a service platform that would allow entrepreneurs, founders, and small and medium businesses design their business models, test their ideas, validate their market ideas, and ultimately reduce the failure rate of startups. So we developed an MVP, we raised capital from an angel investor, things were going very well, we went to events, we were given chats and stuff, and our main pillars were an educational pillar where entrepreneurs could go and learn about finances, about marketing, about strategy. How is this going to help them improve their business? Also, we had an modeling tool. The Blue tool was a place where they could design their business models, test their ideas, and understand that. And then we had an experimentation tool that you could go to the market and test the market and see what results the market gives you back. So we did that, we founded that in 2016, and we did that for 3 years. We were working really hard, but of course, startups are not bulletproof, and we failed to reach product market fit in those 3 years. And the reason I believe is that we did not put enough effort in sales. We thought that the product was so good that it was going to sell itself. And of course, many of you might know that this is not true. And well, that was in 2019, and things were going very bad. We didn't have enough cash, enough energy. And this is an actual picture of me back then. And I was like, oh man, what is going on? You know? So we have to make a decision. And in 2019, in April, we decided to close down the company. We had to fire the team. It was a mess because these were the same people that were working with me in the software company. So we had to fire them. They blamed me for the decision of closing. They didn't want to work with me anymore. So I lost my team, lost my company, lost everything. And I said, all right, now what do I do, right? Like, where I found myself in this situation. And so I started thinking and going back on everything that we built, right? Everything that we built our software development company on, it's the software as a service platform. And it was about business strategy. It was about frameworks. It was about helping startups raise capital. It was about helping startups design go-to-market strategies. So I said, all right, it makes sense for me to do this as a service, as a consulting service, or as an advisor service. So that's when I founded 251. That was in 2019, in December 2019. And I started to reach out to my previous clients, to my network, to find people that wanted to work with me. And for some time, it was great. I helped these companies raise capital, design go-to-market strategies, find the right product market fit for them. But then again, in 2020 and late 2020, things were also going to look like this again because the cash flow was not good enough. The clients were not coming as fast as I needed. So again, to avoid this situation again, I started to think, all right, what do I do now again? Right? I'm again in this situation. I don't want to be in this situation anymore. So how can I solve this? So I started to go back on what I used to do on software development. And I stumbled upon Solidity. And I thought to myself, all right, let's just give it a try. I'm used to learning new languages. I'm used to learning new architectures. So why don't I just work on this? So I did some courses, did some documentation, and then I did a hackathon from Chainlink, and this changed my life completely. Because now I was able to offer this service as well. And last year, this Solidity service, or blockchain development service, as you heard from Robert before, it is the most demanded and the most well paid. So during that, I was able to experience working with DeFi projects, own forks, NFT projects, profile picture projects, wallet projects, and different projects that really gave me a good perspective on how the ecosystem was looking. So again, I got me thinking, all right, I don't like developing software for other people. So how can I take this to my own? How can I improve this and make it my own? And that's when I started to realize that one of the biggest problems that I have found startups have is that they don't have enough capital. They don't have enough money to run their business or to test their ideas or to validate. And I thought, all right, how can this be solved by the blockchain or by using blockchain? And then to find this, I first thought, all right, first I need to understand where the current problems that startup capital raising has, and then to see if blockchain actually has a solution or not. So some of these problems that entrepreneurs have is that they don't have access to capital, they have a small network. Also, the time that it takes for investors to move the money towards your account, that's also a killer. And of course, also the slow decision process from investors also triggers that. So right now, I thought there are some traditional finance services that do this, right? There are some traditional finance solutions that provide this, and the solutions might be some business bank loans, some investment funds, or business credit lines, or traditional VC firms, or even angel investors, or other types of investors. But then again, this doesn't solve everything. This still proposes some of the issues that traditional finance has. And then I started to look into what type of decentralized finance solutions are out there. And 7 years ago, or 2016, 2017, there was many projects that were launched back then who were taking stuff from the traditional finance and implementing that in the blockchain. So for example, Bancor, these were the first people that introduced liquidity pools, which now many of the projects are using that. Compound Finance were the guys that introduced Governor Bravo, which is a democracy now system for governance. Marble introduced flash loans back then, and many people copied that. And then last year, Olympus became very famous because of its bonding mechanism. And through this bonding mechanism, many people copied that and found that. But then again, this cryptocurrency ecosystem, where all of these solutions have some problems that you might be aware of. Of course, price manipulation, price volatility, money laundering, illegal activities, or unsustainable economics and tokenomics. There are plenty of problems, we know, but these were the most relevant that I found. So these problems actually make it less attractive for a solution like funding startups through this, because if you fund a startup with price manipulation and price volatility, then you cannot have an idea on what to do it. So some potential solutions for those issues that I found, and of course there are many other stuff for price manipulations. You can think about protocol structure, about the volatility. You can think about treasury-backed assets. Again, we can deal that for many minutes and discuss that. For money laundering and illegal activities, you can think about compliance and due diligence, or KYC, whatever you want to call it. And then lastly, for unsustainable tokenomics or unsustainable economics, I believe that one way to do this is that the token emission and the minting process only happens when there's a profit. So only tokens are minted through this. And yeah, it's not going to be 20% APY, or it's not going to be 8% APY. It's going to be a different process, but it's going to depend on profit. So with these solutions in mind, I thought, all right, let's search for something that looks like this. And I don't know if you know this guy, Balagis. If you don't know this guy, you should follow him on Twitter. He's a genius. He has also a fund investments, and he has bright ideas. He also, I think the biggest thing that he shared recently is a model for cities that use the blockchain as governance for doing most of the stuff. So he also proposed this, it's called Mirror Table. And Mirror Table, as he mentions that, Mirror Table for his idea is what stable coins are to fiat to cap tables. So in a way, Mirror Table works as a cap table, but in the blockchain, and they streamline and internationalize the logistical mess of angel investing. So when I found this, I said, all right, this is very inspiring. This is a lot of what I have found. And with this in mind, I started to propose this value proposition. So a DeFi protocol for funding startups, in the case that we are helping investors and entrepreneurs solve the common problems that fiat currencies and traditional finance propose in investments by implementing a blockchain solution for specifically for startup capital raise. So how would this work? And Sorry for the mess. It was a good animation, but so on the left you have the investors. In the middle you have a treasury or the protocol. In the right you have startups, companies, or whatever. Investors give money to the protocol, and then they get investors' tokens back, and then the treasury invests in startups and the startup returns startup tokens, and then the startup do their business, validate their ideas, and when they make profit, they buy back their tokens or give back their tokens. This needs to be defined and how this happens, but the idea is that the profit that the startup generates from that investment, it is returned to the protocol somehow, and then investors can exchange their investors' tokens for that profit. Now, what I've been focused on, because there are many treasury standards and some token standards, we'll know ERC20, there's also these other proposals, but I have not found a standard for emitting startup tokens. So what I propose is a smart contract standard that has a way of calculating the valuation for the startup, that has a way of minting tokens for whenever there's going to be a raise, and then that has a price calculation based on the valuation and then the amount of tokens that are minted. Of course, that brings some problems and some open questions, and some problems that I have identified through this is that, of course, these tokens and the investors' tokens and the startup tokens are not targeted to be published in an exchange, but of course, people can do whatever they want if it becomes popular enough. So this, again, would come into the price volatility, and people who hold a lot of tokens could crash the protocol and bring the value down, though ideally the treasury would be there to back stuff. And then, of course, the same thing happens with startup tokens. And then ultimately, the other problem, the other big problem, or the other big question to solve is startups fail, and what happens in that sense, right? 90% of startups fail. So how are we going to pay back those investors if every startup fails? So of course, there are some things that we can take to avoid this or to mitigate that impact. But in general, this is the situation. So what I would like to encourage you as creators and people that are here is that find some solutions for these problems or whatever problems you are finding, and that you make a solution towards that, and that actually your solution is helping someone, and that way we can improve innovation. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Samuel. See you for the Q&A. Marina. Marina Mancho. Marina is the head of legal and partnerships at Blockchain Valley, responsible for leading collaborations with external law firms and for development of legal framework and compliance. A legal framework is required for using blockchains as unique and trusted sources of identity. Blockchains can record financial transactions and legal operations. Marina is going to speak about the issue of a regulatory level with GDPR, overall data protection, and blockchain technologies. Welcome, Marina.
Hi. Hi, everyone, and thank you to the Night of Creators for asking me to do this keynote. It's going to be a tough one to follow. Legal is not as exciting as startups, but I'm going to try. You guys bear with me. So this topic is mostly a debate right now, as regulation hasn't caught up yet with these new technologies. As we all know, regulators are usually not really fast. We will focus on European regulation and hence GDPR, which I believe is the gold standard globally for data protection. Why is it so important? Basically because it does not apply only to the companies that are in Europe, but it has to be enforced depending on who the user is. So if the user is within Europe, then it will apply anyway. For example, Blockchain Valley, our company has offices in London, Paris, Barcelona, and South Africa. And we don't really make the distinctions when we have to do all the KYC, AML requirements for both European and non-Europeans. when someone is located in Europe, we do have to comply with GDPR. So you can imagine how crucial it is for every company to be able to comply with it. So we all know that personal data is a new digital currency. This has been so even before the existence and the rise of blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies. And that's why when regulations were created to limit how the data is collected, treated, sold, modified, etc., regulators were contemplating the internet, meaning centralized storage of data. This paradigm has since changed, and the decentralized way of storing data of the blockchain comes with a lot of advantages, but also some new challenges that we all have to face to comply with what has been set forth legally. So let's go over some of the rights that GDPR gives to all European users. These are not, by all means, all the rights that are in GDPR, but we're just going to touch on these because I believe they're the most important to see what the challenges are. Under Article 4 of the EU regulation, a data controller is defined as a natural or legal person, public authority, agency, or otherwise, that determines that the purpose and means of processing personal data. GDPR assigns to data controllers the primary responsibility for implementing appropriate technical and organizational measures which aim to protect that personal data. That means that this figure of the data controller is really a key figure and essential in GDPR. Another right would be the right to be forgotten under Article 17. As we all know, if we want our data to be erased immediately, when the data controller has no longer a lawful basis, sometimes it is required by law that you keep data for a certain amount of time. But once that requirement is done, that data has to be deleted if it's required. So another right would be the statutory requirements of privacy by design and privacy by default. That's under Article 25 of GDPR, and this means that any data processing system has to be designed and developed with data privacy and data protection considerations in mind. So let's see why these three key rights challenge the blockchain. On the first place, the data controller figure is directly opposite to the decentralized nature of the blockchain and its nodes. There is no one person responsible. The blockchain eliminates the need to trust a third party. Let's say we want to delete our data with a big company. We have an email to reach. We can know exactly who is responsible for this, for deleting, changing it. However, on a blockchain, we couldn't ask each and every node to do so. So there is no data controller figure. Another one would be the right to erase one's personal data. It's also kind of opposed to blockchain technology because of the immutability of the chain, which doesn't make it possible to remove data. If we could reach a hypothetical data controller, it would also not be possible to delete a whole block without compromising the whole chain. So there are many ways, however, to anonymize data so that it can't be linked to a person anymore. Of course, there's a risk that that data will be reversed and identifiable, which would mean it's not fully anonymized. And that's the difference between pseudonymization and anonymization within the GDPR framework. Finally, the privacy by default mandate. We can assume that blockchain tech, when it was being developed, it did not have privacy in mind in the way that the regulators expect. But however, it does approach privacy from another angle, like we were speaking about anonymity. Both European data protection and blockchain technology seek to give more control to the individual over the processing of personal data. On the one hand, the European regulation says that every organization governed by a central system in which there's one person responsible, and then blockchain uses the premise of decentralization of its management. So there is no one that can make unilateral decisions on data recorded on the blockchain. That means it's more tamper-proof and there's more transparency as well. So now that we see that there are some conflicts there that have arisen, we have to look forward to the solutions. The solutions, I believe, cannot go exclusively in one direction. We can't change legislation completely just because we would be at risk of losing fundamental rights that we all seek to protect, but also changing blockchain technology has the risk of compromising its many virtues. There are some technological solutions that I will just touch on. An example would be a blockchain technology that allows for data erasure. It just requires that we keep the hash functions interrelating the blocks intact while allowing the removal of personal data from them. So it's kind of like redacting information on these blocks without affecting the integrity of the chain. Another option which is used is to retain personal data in off-chain storages. Personal data would be entirely detached from any other transaction data and put in a separate off-chain storage. And the authenticity of that personal data can be verified with corresponding hash functions stored in the blockchain network. I would argue that the best solution here, it doesn't really come from the tech solutions, but really, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're really important and useful, but it comes down to the legal interpretation and the fact that the European governments are more willing to accept blockchain technology. So that means to define the different concepts that appear in the GDPR in a way that it could be understood by authorities and by courts as to include what blockchain technology is doing right now within the GDPR rights. So the definition of erasure, for example, it could refer to minimizing the identifiable information. So that means that we make the data practically inaccessible, even though it's technically still in the chain, but it really comes close to the users being able to effectively exercise their right because that data is no longer available. I think adapting our definitions and trying to protect users with encryption could really allow the blockchain to maintain most of its benefits like transparency, tamper-proofness, immutability, while fitting with the current provisions. So, it is not feasible that all or most blockchain applications will implement technological solutions, especially designed to comply with GDPR, at least in the short term. And it's also not foreseeable that all European countries will adopt jurisprudential positions that allow for a minimization of the information to be admitted as data erasure, for example. This is why I believe it's really important that governments and the blockchain community cooperate at this point. And we just need awareness within the community that this is a challenge that we are all going to face eventually, as well as being able to communicate with the regulators, who, as I said before, they're really behind on all of this. The solutions will come on a case-by-case basis, and there are a lot of companies actively working to solve all of this. And I would just highly advise anyone that treats personal data to search for legal counsel for their specific case. And yeah, this is really what my keynote is all about, just putting the spotlight on this topic. I do not have a solution for all of these problems and the discrepancies with GDPR, but I hope it helps some of you understand from a new perspective and maybe ask some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you very much. You can stay on stage if you want, because we're going to call our guests to answer the questions. Just Charlotte and Harry from SwissBorg apologize, but they had to go because they had a plane to catch. So they won't be able to answer your questions, but we have here 3 people. I think you have plenty of questions for them. First question? Yes?
Okay, Robert.
Yes.
I think you told us perfectly how to find talent.
Yes, hopefully.
But to be honest, I missed some part of how to attract it, because like how to become an attractive company. Once you find it, once you know where it is, once you know how to find it, Like, or let me ask it another way: what do these people, these professionals, value in companies? Is it salary? I don't know.
That's a good question. Salary is important. Millennials also like a good working culture as well, good working atmosphere, good working environment. As I said, things like tokens, etc., bonuses. I'd say honestly that things like pensions are probably less important, but a slice of the pie in terms of, like I say, bonuses, stock options, etc., that's what people want. What's happening is so many people, like I said in the presentation, so many companies are looking for the same thing. You know, they really are. They are looking for the exact same candidates. So it's all about what sort of culture have you got, what sort of plans have you got in place for growth, etc. You know, how exciting is what you're doing. That's how you stand out as an organization.
There. Next question. Yes? Yeah, al fondo ahí.
Question is for Marina. And what do you think about how the multi-chains, like the Cosmos is one of them, and Ethereum, is a worldwide blockchain, and how the GDPR can be compliant, because it's a really challenge, because if I deploy something there, I don't know which country will be responsible to run that information or hold that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely another problem within GDPR. I think the question you're asking is, if you're not in the European Union, your company is not, and then you have some European users, right? Like if you don't comply with GDPR, what happens there? Usually it's sanctions, which is as far as, I mean, companies who are not within Europe, they can only get sanctions from Europe. That's as far as they can go. However, it could be getting blocked from different countries if they rule so. Within Europe, there are countries who are even more strict about GDPR than others. So even though it's, you know, a framework for the whole European Union, it still has like a bit of change within countries. But you have no escape. You do have to comply with GDPR if you're trading with any European user at all.
And for Marina, again, yeah, it's a question regarding rather not something which is happening really recently, like behavior within digital spaces, metaverses, such. Say that we're building like a metaverse, decentralized metaverse platform, and somebody is abusing another user or avatar.
Yeah.
And then this kind of abuses are more frequent and difficult to moderate.
Yeah.
From the perspective of who is building the actual. How's that gonna be working in terms of legal responsibilities?
Being
like I'm owning a metaverse I'm building, but then somebody's gonna be funny and what I'm supposed to do about this.
So that doesn't really fall under GDPR, but it's something a bit different. When there's bullying or threats online, it's a bit hard to moderate, because you have to take into account the freedom of speech, but at the same time, you can't allow hateful commentary to be going on in your platform. So usually it really comes down to setting up like a really good terms of use for your metaverse, and being sure that you're banning this hateful commentary or whatever. And that way you can make sure that if you moderate someone or you even kick them out from the platform, your terms of use specifically say so that you're allowed to do so and you're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah, but are you spending time controlling what's going on, or decentralize each one behavior rather than how do you
I mean, there's no one answer. You can decide how to do that.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I would say if you don't regulate at all, that's probably not going to be your platform's responsibility anyway, if you state so clearly in the terms. So it's up to you to decide how much you want to regulate. You know, there's been a huge debate on this about like Twitter, a lot of platforms that have this kind of problems going on, and they have AI deciding who to moderate, who to not moderate. And yeah, I mean, it's still in development. It's really hard, but it's a really good question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, maybe a question for you, Samuel.
Yep.
You mentioned during your presentation that you went bankrupt several times.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and you're still there,
I am here. Yeah.
which is good news. Could you share with us or tell us what did you retain from this experience of personally of getting bankrupt and getting back again? I think your story was quite interesting, but I would like to understand more what your experience personally was about it.
Sure thing. Yeah. So I have been bankrupt several times. Most recently last year, and yeah, who knows this year? I don't know. But all right. So from that experience, I learned a lot. Of course, those were really bad times all the time. Like when I was bankrupt, but specifically for the startup scene. So when we started to build our company, when we started to build our vision, we thought that raising capital from an investor was the ultimate goal. That this was the only thing that was blocking us for success, right? If I got the money from the investor, then there's nothing else that can stop me to be successful and to find 1 million users that will pay that. Right now, after having faced that, I have changed my mindset about that in the way that right now, I'm much more cautious on what type of capital and what type of investor I reach out, even if there's a way to be in bootstrap, even if there's a way of not asking for capital. Because when we raised capital, we raised $300,000, and that lasted for 3 years, and that was great. But in retrospective, that was a lot of money to have in the bank, and that made us feel comfortable. That made us feel that, oh, sales are not that urgent. So in that perspective, I would say I have rethought several times if I should raise capital again. Right now, I'm much more, tilted to bootstrapping type things. Then also the second time last year that happened, so that over here it was a very good. So one of the issues that I found while I was trying to get more clients for branding and for consulting, for strategy and for consulting, it was that so many people told me, you need to specify, you need to choose a niche. And I was like, yeah, but how do I choose a niche? Like all the frameworks, all the works for every business. You have a bakery, I can help you. You have a website, I can help you. But of course, many people told me to niche and to find in a specific industry. So when I started to look into the cryptocurrency industry, things switched completely. So that's another thing that I could share that I learned from that experience. So even though I was very fixated in the fact that I could help any business, the fact that I could just choose a specific industry and streamline through that business took me out of bankruptcy and took me out of that situation. And the other thing that I can tell is that the stress that you have whenever you are bankrupt is the same exact stress that you have when you have $100 million in your bank and you need to run a company and you have 200 employees. So I dedicated to learn how to manage stress because it was going to be the same stress. So at some point, if I manage a company with 200 employees and I'm stressful, it was going to be the same stress that when I was bankrupt. So I would say that's another thing that I really learned on stress is the same. It's just a different problem that has that.
The question is, how does the microphone work?
Okay, hello. My question is also to Samuel. What is the... It seemed a bit like you said, I want to build this on blockchain and I have to find what I want to build. Instead of, I think blockchain is the solution to what I want to create. So my question to you is, why do you think building a vault on the blockchain
Mm-hmm.
actually does anything differently than just creating a bank account where multiple investors put their money in and you decide where it goes? Because it feels quite centralized, if I may say so. So my question is to what does the blockchain enable for your solution to perform, basically?
Thank you. And this is actually one question that when I started to think about this process, I am not a finance person, so I am an engineer, so I always have built, oh yes, let's build stuff, and that's it. So I don't know anything about how the money moves, and so I have a friend of mine who knows about this, so I called him and I said, oh yeah, what do you think about this, right? What do you think about this process? And he told me, why are you building this on the blockchain? Why don't you open a bank account and just raise a fund and invest the funds as you wish, like as the same incubator or a VC fund? And I still have not found a direct answer to that, but some of the stuff that some of the advantages that this blockchain solution could take is that the decision in which startup is invested could be done by a voting power, by a governance power. So the community of investors decides into which startup was invested through the voting system, through the tokens. Also, I think the biggest, or at least the most attractive for me as a founder, and this is that if a decision has been made, after that decision has been made, the funds are transferred almost immediately. So the idea is that the contracts and the protocol and the vault have a way of doing that, and whenever a decision has been made, that gets done automatically, and then as a startup founder, I'm able to get the funds that I need when I need them. That's...
And maybe a small add-on.
Yeah.
How do you forego that the investor token is a security? Because it sounds like a security.
Of course. And then, so that's also one thing that I have thought a lot about, and the only solution that I have found is that this should be taken as a registry, not equity, not shares, not as security, but as a registration of the information of the transaction. And if you name it just as a ledger and not as a financial asset, you might get it away, but ultimately you can get targeted by governments that regulate, and it is a security in the end.
I don't know, maybe you get a role or whatever. I don't know how it works exactly.
Yeah, no, me neither yet. So yeah, thank you.
Next question. Nope. I have a question for you, Robert. Many projects, many crypto projects are startup projects.
Yes.
So they are all starting with no or very small funds.
Yes, of course.
So how do you motivate young developers, for example, to join this kind without just, well, I mean, okay, you're going to say if you propose them to be a partner of the company, to be a co-founder, okay. But how do you motivate in a startup project someone that you're not going to be able to pay the amounts of money you told us in your presentation?
Yeah, so when we're working on behalf of our clients who perhaps don't have that much money, like you say, honestly, they tend to find the money from somewhere to pay developers. They have to. If they don't have people to build the product itself, nothing gets done. So they will beg, steal, or borrow. They will go without money themselves. They won't pay themselves, but when it comes to the developers, I'm specifically talking about them, they'll have to pay the piper. It's a fact. Now, it could be on a 3-month contract, could be on a 6-month contract, it could be you'll get paid less, but they will have to get paid something. And usually, at the moment, they pretty much have to get paid top whack. Even the grads, like I say, even the fresh grads, even the people doing internships, you have to pay them something, because if you do not, they will just go elsewhere and work for the full money. That's the problem.
Okay. And what cities actually in the world recognized as, well, let's not talk about the Silicon Valley, but let's talk about Europe. Which cities where you have important startups ecosystems, for example, which cities are nowadays the most attractive for young millennials and
it's Dubai is going crazy at the moment. We've got a lot of clients in Dubai. We've just hired someone to run our Dubai office, and there's a hell of a lot of work going on there. Obviously, very, very attractive, nice lifestyle. tax-free money as well. So yeah, exactly. And you know, again, if you are
because it's basically zero. Tax.
Zero. So if you're 24, like this Sam guy, I know you're getting paid 140k, you're going to get taxed 45% on that. If you're earning that in Dubai, that's some serious wedge. So it's a massive growth market. And then you've got the standard sort of, you know, you've got your Paris and Berlin, etc., etc. London's always going to be busy. Barcelona's going to be busy. But but this is a global thing, right? Crypto is global, and there's so much going on everywhere. And like I said, recruitment is remote, and people are just working remotely, 100% now. So this is a sea change in the way recruitment's done over the last 4 or 5 years.
Thank you. Any more question? Amaury.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. I would like to know your point of view of recruiting a consultant or an employee for a startup.
Yeah, good. That's an excellent question. For a startup, if you can, try and get a full-time person. If you can, that's always the best way. You want people who are going to sort of grow with the company, build with the company, people who are going to be fully ensconced in the organisation. But you've got to make sure you pay them, and you've got to make sure you look after them, because Meta will pick up the phone. They just scout. Meta have got hundreds of recruiters, thousands of recruiters. Work for a startup for 2 years, you're going to get on. You know, you're going to get a phone call. So you've got to make sure you look after these people, bring them on perm as part of the family. If it's contract, you pay them a lot of money for 6 months, and they just go and take their ideas elsewhere. It's not necessarily what you want. You want to get these people part of the fabric, pay them, and let them grow with the company.
Hi, Robert.
Hello.
For you. Besides all the technical jobs, like you said, developers, coders, what other kind of niche of, let's say, less technical jobs do you see in Web3? Like, do you see a real big area there for possibilities, for opportunities?
Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a lot of stuff in sales, business development, et cetera, et cetera. You know, sales guys are always going to be almost as important as the people making the product. You need the people to sell the product. So sales, business development, there's going to be a hell of a lot of work there. We're seeing a lot of stuff in marketing where there never used to be lots of work, but we're doing, in terms of tech marketing, there's a hell of a lot there across all levels. Senior marketers are getting paid a lot of money, community people, you know, jobs that didn't really exist that long ago are now becoming part of the whole recruitment landscape and fabric.
And for marketing, do you see like a lot of people from Web 2 pass to Web 3, or do you think it's a bit different, the marketing in Web 3?
Honestly, it doesn't really make any difference. If you've got sort of an affinity to Web 2, that's fine. But the good thing about marketing is it's pretty sector agnostic. If you've got a good marketer who comes from another industry completely, and they're good at what they do, they've got an interest in this blockchain and the whole crypto space, they can come across easily. Because it's such a new technology, it's such a relatively new thing, it doesn't take much if you've got the want and the desire to learn it.
Thank you.
Any more question?
Robert, just to piggyback off of that question,
yeah.
And looking at other niches besides more technical roles, I know M-Wek is more focused on technical roles.
Yeah.
Do you recommend any sort of platform or I guess other space for looking at these more non-technical roles?
Yeah, how do you mean, like sort of product manager roles, et cetera,
sure.
et cetera, et cetera? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's an area we try and focus on. But you know what, that's sort of, there's sort of technical product managers and non-technical product, but that falls under our remit as well. But again, a lot of the product roles, they're quite technical as well. You know, they want people who understand the project, people who've got computer science degrees, people who would understand it, agile methodology experience. This is what I'm saying. It's so interesting how tech, in many of these roles in crypto, it just forms a sort of bedrock of everything. And at least some knowledge has to be there to be a viable candidate, I think.
Any more question? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you all too long, but maybe one final question. In our ecosystem, for example, and I think in the entire Cosmos ecosystem, which is a relatively big part in the entire crypto sphere, I feel people are mostly recruited on a word-by-word. word of mouth basis. Basically, you join the community in what form or whatever. You spend some time there for a few months, and then someone shoots you a DM and says, "Hey, do you want to work for us?" How do you feel this stacks up against, for example, centralized exchanges who don't have this community-driven aspect to drive basically their recruitment?
I think there's different ways of doing recruitment. I think both of them are viable. I think the word of mouth way is probably best. People trust who they work with, people trust who they know. But what happens is eventually you speak to these startups, they go through the list of people they know, friends of friends, people they went to university with, and then it gets to a point whereby they need to go and recruit outside. There's always a finite, and that's where companies like us step in. But that's the good thing about the crypto space. It's relatively insular, but there's always people from outside you need to bring in to drive things forward as well, as an addendum to the people that you already know.
So if you have to press it as like a percentage, how many people in a entire let's say you have 20 people who cooperate for a blockchain, how many people you think need to come from outside to have a strong development team or a strong working group that know all the things?
That's a good question. I'd say maybe half and half. If you can bring someone in from outside, bring someone in who's worked for a Google or a Meta or worked for a hedge fund or something like that. These people are highly technical, highly skilled. Get someone in who's worked for Sky, maybe someone in who's worked for an airline, Skyscanner or something like that. They bring some different ideas to the table and put them alongside the people that are sort of crypto native developers. That's how you build a successful team.
Thanks, very informative.
No problem, thank you.
Another question? No? Well, thank you very much. We're going to have a... very interesting. We see that we have in the audience some quite a lot of entrepreneurs because the questions are roughly based on economical models, compliance, legal objections, and HR. So that's how you build a project, basically. We're going to take a 30-minute break, approximately. So you have time to do whatever you want, check your emails, your social networks, or code a couple of lines, and or have a coffee or tea or something. And we'll meet in about a little half hour, and we have 3 more presentations. Thank you.